In this video, we're going to talk about what happens when we need to create flowable mortar. Now, in these floodable backfill series of videos, we've been looking at the standard DR101, and you can see up here on the left that there is a typical here that talks about flowable mortar, and there's 6 inches of it. How can I create that? So once I've got my floodable backfill created, I am in the Floodable Mesh DGN. This is a 3D file. I did attach my subgrade terrain here. I just have the display to boundary. So what I'm going to do is create a clipped terrain and a delta terrain that represent that 6 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do is we'll go here, we'll go to the open roads modeling, I'll go to the drawing, and I am just going to draw a box around this floodable backfill. Now this should be at 0. You can see when I snap here in the lower left hand corner, here's my 0 elevation. And now I'm just going to go to the terrain ribbon. I'm going to create a clipped terrain. This is going to be clipped external. I will call this clipped. And I'm just going to follow the prompts here. Locate my clipping element. I'll reset when I'm done. And you can see now I have a clipped terrain. From this clipped terrain, I'm going to create a delta terrain. This will be terrain model to plane. I am going to lower this 6 inches. I will use the road triangle definition again. I will call this one delta. And I am just going to select that terrain. And now we can just take a look. I'm just going to rotate this. You can see I have 2 terrains. Now I'm going to go to the Geotech tools here. Underneath 3D modeling, I'm going to create mesh from existing terrains. My top terrain is clipped. My bottom terrain would be delta. And I am just going to accept that. It does ask me for my boundary. If I zoom out, I can select my boundary. And now you can see I have a mesh. Once I have that mesh created, I like to go delete the terrains that I made, the clipped and the delta. And now I'm left with this mesh. So what I need to do now is intersect those 2 meshes to create the flowable mortar area. So underneath the modeling ribbon here, I'm going to go to mesh. I'm going to go to mesh intersect, and I'm going to keep all here for my option. I will select this mesh. And you can see that it created a mesh in there, and it'll make more sense here once we're done. And again, I'll just select the mesh I created. This is my floodable backfill area. We'll see if we can zoom in or rotate this, make this a little easier to see. But you can see where it created the 6 inches of floodable backfill. What we need to do now is we need to subtract the mesh that we created here from this floodable backfill. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the mesh subtract, and we're going to use the last option here. And we're going to pick our floodable backfill mesh first. Then we're going to pick the mesh that we created that represents that 6 inches. Now, once I have that done, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that mesh that we created to help us create the floodable. And now you can kind of see we're left with this here. If I was to move it, make it a little bit easier to see, you can see there's my floodable backfill area. And here would be my flowable mortar. So the only thing we have to do here is just set some feature definitions to get those on the right symbology. We can do flowable mortar first. I'll just pick those. I'll reset when I'm done. We'll go ahead and pick flooded backfill, and we'll set those. Now, if we turn on, let's say, transparent modeling, maybe, you can see we have a flooded backfill, and flowable mortar, excuse me, and we have our flooded backfill. The only thing we didn't do in this file is I didn't bring forward the porous material. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that into this file as well. I'll turn that display off, that's just my reference. And this here, we have porous, we have flooded backfill, and now we have our flowable mortar. In the next series or video, we will talk about how do we get the quantities now from this.